Hello everybody. So as usual I only stream for about an hour and I won't start talking about anything in particular until we've got a minute or two in, because generally it seems to take a while for people to see the notifications, if they even get sent notifications at all. Because yeah, at the moment the YouTube thing still says 0 people watching because it seems to update every minute or so. That would be a computer fan rattling, because, you know, if you have a decent microphone it picks up every noise whether you want it to or not. A place called D&B Militaria. I can put a link because I get asked that quite often. Let me just get it up and have a look while I post a link to see if anything good's in. I used to play War Thunder, but I haven't done it in ages just because it becomes too much of a grind fest. Yeah, I like Poland. I've been to Poland before. I was in Poland for about 10 days when I went to a few of the main cities. Obviously I've got a lot of Polish surplus as well. But the problem with deactivated firearms at the moment is that a lot of them have gone up in price a lot. There is a rocket launcher on there for £350, but I suppose that's just because it's like the casing, isn't it, for it in a sense. That Russian Bumble sort of napalm launch or whatever it was is pretty cool. Just having a look what else is on there. So if I miss your questions, it's because I'm just having a look at what's on there at the moment. If I was to get another deactivated gun, I wouldn't probably get a deactivated gun. I'd probably buy an antique. Because if you buy antique firearms, they're still fully functional. They're just not classed as firearms by UK law. I already posted the link, if you bother reading it. If you've been scammed by a site, contact your bank, obviously. I have an L1A1 SLR, which is the British FN FAL. I have a British number 4, not number 4 Enfield, sorry. I think it's number 1 Mark III Enfield, isn't it? I have. PPSH 41, an RPK. And there's one other one I have as well, the M1 carbine. I think that's all of them. So I either have 5 or 6 deactivated guns in total. I think it's probably 5, if I'm not forgetting any. Just trying to remember the order I bought them in. The order I got them in, I think, would have been RPK first, SLR second, M1 carbine third, the Enfield 4th and PPSH 5th, so yeah, I'm pretty certain it's 5 I have. Alright, cool, hope you had a nice time in Asia. I'm not really keeping up with the comments very well at the moment, because as I said, I was looking on that site for the, to see what was on there, so if I miss anything, I miss them. So what I ought to do is actually search for antique on the site, because that way it doesn't show the deactivated ones, just the antique ones. Get a musket for £350. There's a percussion carbine for £75. That's a pretty good price, but it's obviously a very basic one. Yeah, it's quite rusty. Yeah, I'll go back to the chat now, because otherwise I'm going to get really distracted. eBay is the best place to look for masks, so if you're not looking on eBay for masks, you're probably doing it wrong. All the gas masks are stored wherever. I've already done videos on that. Alright, cool, Mike. Yeah, at the moment I'm just reading various comments while trying to keep up with it. Well, basically you get your regular kind of filters, and that's just got activated charcoal in. But they're only good against some chemicals, so then they have to impregnate them to make them work against other chemicals. So basically, under proper standards, they can't advertise a filter as protecting you from something unless it properly protects you from it. So that I hope that makes sense, but it's quite straightforward really, that if it's not impregnated to work against various chemicals, they can't advertise them as working against other chemicals. So an ABEC filter, for example, has to be one that covers all those chemical groups. It can't be called an ABEC filter if it doesn't protect you from lots of those things. But it's mostly because nowadays there's much better standards for actually, you know, forcing companies to explain what the filter does, rather than it just being called an NBC filter, which basically could mean anything. If you mean like those metal masks, or the like really strong visors for masks, yeah, I know what you mean by those. But I wouldn't really trust any of those if you bought them online. You'd have to get them from a proper supplier. Yeah, I get that all the time when I'm just watching something and I notice it. Just go on eBay, just type in RD40 filter and there's loads that come up that are in date, but they obviously cost a fair bit more if they are in date. But I saw loads up earlier because I was just looking out of interest to see what was on there. And obviously wear a cheek filter mask. Cheek filter mask would be fine against fallout as well, because the particulate filters in the bit that's going to cause you problems. It's the vapor protection. Well, the best system for it is just what like the S10 uses, where it's got a secondary voice diaphragm which a radio microphone can clip onto. Because if you think about it, that's the perfect system, because you've got your front voice bit which other people can hear that you're talking to, and if you've got your second voice diaphragm that you've got a radio microphone plugged directly on. That way you don't need any sort of silly like megaphone type attachments on the mask, because they're pointless. ABEC filters, person with a load of letters in their name. Well, in theory, one filter will give you partial protection from most of the chemicals. It's just that they can't, you know, like claim it will protect you from something unless it protects to a certain standard. Well, not advisably, no. Your options are basically put plumbing tape on the inside and screw the filter in, and then hope it makes a good enough seal, which it's still not guaranteed to. Add more washers in the attempt it makes a good seal, which again still might not necessarily do it. And also The main problem, the reason I don't recommend using NATO filter on gas masks is you're going to damage the threads on the mask and eventually just break your gas mask because you're forcing something in that doesn't fit in it. It's putting a square hole, square peg in a round hole, if you know that expression. Is Swedish M90 camo the ones with like the really angular lines on it? I think it looks cool, but I don't know how effective it would be. It looks cool on tanks though. Was that, which Swiss one was that? Was it that the SM67? Because that's the only Swiss mask I actually have. I don't know, whatever she's into. I don't know if you're asking me like that as a fetish question or not, I really have no idea. Yeah, the problem is lots of sellers online confuse the SM67 and the SM74. Where they've got SM74s advertised as 67s and vice versa. Where obviously the 74 is the one with like the plastic kind of XL valve bit on the nose, whereas the 67's like the one I've got with the valve underneath. But they're kind of almost the exact same mask, other than the XL valve being in a slightly different place. The point I was making though, Jonathan, was I was basically saying the S10 design is the best one. Anything else is kind of inferior, because you want something where you can have a radio microphone clip onto it. But the SM90 is meant to be a good mask. The SM90 has a voice diaphragm on it as far as I'm aware. Well, I don't understand the point of voice projection units, to be honest, like I said, because they seem a pointless thing. It's literally attaching a megaphone to a gas mask. I don't think you'd ever really need that. So, just a mask with a standard voice diaphragm is fine, because you could still, if you wanted to, put a radio microphone next to your voice diaphragm. I have no idea. CBR and NBC, I don't follow any sort of news like that. The site's still up. Right, I'll go back about that Estonian camo because I have to Google it to see what it actually looks like. I might have seen it before, but I don't remember lots of camos by the names. Yeah, it looks quite similar to CAD-PAT, so it looks like it would work well, but in the pictures I'm seeing of it, like with lots of camos, lots of them aren't consistent in colour. Like some are more brown, some are more green, one's really brown and one of the colours of all the soldiers lined up in it. So it looks like with lots of camos they don't have the, like quality control very good with the colours, because loads of countries have had that issue, where they get lots, like probably 10 different companies to print the camo and none of them ever print it consistently with the colours. It looks like it's alright, especially the ones I can see where it's properly green and brown. That looks like it'd be a very good woodland camo, to be honest, but I guess it would only work in sort of evergreen woodland. I guess that's what it's intended for. Oh, if for an actual survival use, then I just recommend you watch my videos on just like what surplus masks I recommend, and I might do an updated video on one of those now in case I've got any more masks that are be fairly good to recommend. But again, I've done videos on all this stuff before, so don't ask me really, to be honest, in a stream to just recount things from older videos. Yeah, I was just saying you could just do that, Jonathan. You can literally do it whenever. It's not a problem. Sorry, I don't want to sound like I'm getting a bit sort of annoyed with you, but you seem to be asking very obvious questions and then keep going at it. If you've got a voice diaphragm and you put a radio microphone in front of it, it'll pick up the sound. You don't need any fancy equipment for it. I mean, obviously, if you've got a thing where it properly clips on, then that's better, but If a voice diaphragm makes noises come out of it and you put a microphone in front of the voice diaphragm, the radio or the microphone will pick it up. It's not a problem. It depends on the Draeger gas mask, because there's quite a lot. The M65 is a good mask, but it doesn't fit me properly, and lots of people have problems with M65s not fitting them because they don't have very good peripheral seals, but it is a good mask if it fits your face. Modern Draeger masks are meant to be very good though. Yeah, my Gladius when it came was really sharp to the point that it blunted really quickly, and I've never been able to put a good edge on it because it was almost too sharp. It was like shaving sharp. Well, generally Israeli filters don't fit the GP5, so as I've said, if you get an airtight seal with a filter on the mask, then it's good. If it doesn't make an airtight seal, it won't work. It's not, you know, that's not a very complicated thing, is it? Well, it's not so much Mark III and Mark IV short magazine Lee Enfield. It's the numbers, but the entire Enfield number and mark system is really confusing. But if you mean between a number 1 and a number 4 Enfield, the number 4 is just where they reduce the cost of it. It's got a different sight on it. The number 4 is considered pretty good because it was a cheaper to make Enfield, but it's not really lower in quality. It was just like slightly better machined using more modern machining techniques. Because the thing is, the Enfield series has been around since the late 1800s, you know, and they kept it around to about the 1950s. It stands for chemical groups, Firewolf, so A, B, E and K chemical groups. They don't particularly mean anything. It's organic vapour, inorganic vapour, acid gases and ammonia-based gases, but the letters don't mean anything to do with it. It's not like it stands for something. P for particle is the only one that actually is the right letter for the thing. I mostly stream on Monday and Thursday now, because I don't have videos that go live on Monday and Thursday, but I don't have time to do streams on Tuesday. Yeah, well, like I said, if a mask fits you well, it fits you, but if it doesn't fit you well, you might want to consider getting a different mask. Because that's the problem with something like a Draeger M65. If it fits you well, it's generally a very good mask, but for lots of people, the M65 does not fit them well. Because it's like how they just did the peripheral seal on it isn't that good. That's an impossible question to answer, Gabriel. It's like saying, what is the best car? You can literally buy any mask as a civilian. Maybe not directly from the companies, but you can get them, so it depends totally on what you want to spend. But for most people, you could literally, if money is no object and you just want something that works, you could buy a 3M or like a Draeger brand new industrial mask that takes 40mm filters. And, you know, just fit it. Already said lots of times, me too, it's mostly cleaning based. So long shifts of dirty work. Maybe officially, but there's nothing stopping you buying it. But like the Draeger masks and everything, if they're sold as industrial, that's not going to count because it's an industrial mask for like industry use. It will still work the same regardless. As I've probably said this quite a few times, but it doesn't matter if it's intended for industrial use or military use. As long as you can put the same filters on it, the mask will protect you. Any of the ones I've recommended shrimp on my videos before. There's a camo test I want to do soon, but I'm going to wait for it to get a bit more autumny first, Mike, because I've got, the camo I want to do a test on this autumn is my Swiss Alpenflage, which is the camo that's got loads of red in it, because I think that might work well this autumn. But I want to leave it another week or two till all the trees in my area actually look orange and red, because at the moment a couple have turned, but most are still green. So once, you know, the colour palette is right, I'll do a camo test of that. And obviously have to organise going out with somebody to take the photos for that one. So that might make it take even longer to get that done. I could always do a night vision video at some point, but I hadn't planned on doing another one yet. I wouldn't mind doing another night vision video, but, you know, the problem with doing the night vision stuff, I think, is you have to... It's all very samey unless you're lucky enough to spot stuff with the night vision. Because you could go out some nights and not even see much of interest at all. And then other nights you might go out and see, like, deer or some random person walking around in the dark. And then obviously if you see that, then it makes a more interesting video, but... I think I've been out a few times in night vision, filmed a load of stuff, and just never uploaded it, because I've never, you know, not found it all that interesting for playback. That reminds me, though, I'm going to look up the prices of some FLIR cameras now, because, like I said, I could actually afford to buy one. Now I'm working again, but I probably wouldn't still buy one yet. I'd wait to, for them, you know, to be on a decent sort of sale. Oh, there's for £574 one of the proper FLIR outdoor cameras. A bit more than I'd be willing to spend, but you know, they are coming down. I mean, a lot of the really good FLIR cameras are about the £2,000 mark, which is obviously more than I want to spend at the moment, but I'm just looking where people had left bad reviews and then not understanding how a thermal imaging camera works. There's somebody leaving a bad review for one of these. Thanks, Mike. Yeah. There's somebody leaving a bad review for a FLIR camera, you know, like the ones that show heat sources, saying, oh, that they claim it can see, like, heat sources this far away in detail, but I can see on the camera a heat source, like 300 yards away, but it's too blurry to work out what it is. Oh yeah, obviously it's too blurry to work out what it is properly, because it's a tiny little, like, electric display. Oh, reviews like that annoy me. I've just got a Night Fox, which is basically a very basic infrared thrower type one, like what I think they call technically Gen 0 night vision, which uses an infrared light that's invisible to the human eye, and then an infrared camera basically. So the infrared light's thrown out, then the camera can see all the stuff in infrared. It does very basic light amplification, but not quite to the quality level of Gen 1 night vision. So it means, like, if you go out on a night where there's lots of star and moonlight, you can see quite well with it. You know, better than a regular camera would see, for sure, but not really well enough that, you know, you could guide yourself around totally using the thing without the infrared light on. No, as I said before with airsoft stuff, I don't really do it anymore because it would be on days I'm working and it's just a pain in the ass trying to organise it with people. And in the UK there's so much bullshit with the laws on airsoft that I've got no interest in really pursuing it any further. So I have no idea what brands would be good or bad. I've been paintballing once or twice, but it's like the same thing with airsofting. With paintballing, I've been less than airsofting, because I quite like with airsoft that you kind of have the imitation firearms, but the issue is, like, again, most of the places that do it only do it at weekends. I work weekends now, and it's again finding people to go up to do it with, because most people don't really want to do that I know. Yeah, that's kind of the opposite here though, Jonathan, because here it's generally much cheaper on eBay than in the actual stores. But sadly, there's not even that many surplus stores left, just because everybody who owned them got undercut by online sellers who didn't have to, you know, rent a shop and operate it, just store a load of stuff in a garage or something and then send it out. Yeah, that sounds right, Richard, all that sort of stupid stuff. Oh, by the way, if anybody on here is not subscribed to Richard, he does some interesting videos where he like welds stuff and forges stuff. So his videos are definitely worth watching if you're into those sort of medieval weapons. I just thought I'd mention his channel while I remember to. But yeah, that really does annoy me though, when you see reviews that say something's bad because the person doesn't understand how the thing's actually meant to work. Yeah, so the problem for me isn't like I don't like paintballing or airsoft. The issue is for me that basically it's just too much of a pain in the ass where I live to actually go up and play it. There's not a consistent smell with surplus. It totally depends on what the surplus stuff is. I found World War II masks always smell like cigarette smoke. I don't think it actually is cigarette smoke. I think it's the type of the rubber they use that gives off that smell. A lot of the stuff just smells of damp, others are mothballs, but there's not like a consistent smell of it, to be honest. Thought I'd be getting more comments rushing in, to be honest, but it's weird. Sometimes you have the streams on, everybody's talking over each other and you can't keep up with it, and other times they're not. It says there's 31 people on, but I guess most people aren't asking questions. Oh, what is that one? The like the Chinese one with the drawstrings on it. That's surprisingly good as a camo, but it's like a real tree kind of thing. So let's have a look at some more of these you know, like deactivated firearms type things. You've got quite a lot of deactivated old pistols on there for like £200 or less, which are quite good, but I don't think I'd really bother. You never know, they're going to change the rules again and then can't have it or whatever. But yeah, none on there that really grabbed my attention, unfortunately. Yeah, job's fine for the most part. Yeah, you can have a shout out for Chelsea, so hello Chelsea. Or do you mean the place of Chelsea? Wherever, there you go. Well, like I was saying before, it really depends on what they are for the price and all the stuff like that. Alright, cheers. Yeah, it really depends on, you know, like what they cost and everything, but because there's been all the stuff with EU, you know, like changes of the law, I really don't know. Because the problem is, like, the deactivated guns I have now, I can't resell, because they've made them illegal to resell unless I pay a load of money to have them re-deactivated, which I'm obviously not going to do. But you never know, if you buy what's currently legal, then they'll do the same thing again. Alright, cool. Sounds good. But yeah, with surplus and everything here, it just really depends on what you've got available. At some point I am going to go up to the surplus store again I found that wasn't too far away from me and actually get a load more camo. It depends. Certain gun parts are legal because they can have them on deactivated firearms. Other gun parts I imagine are illegal. You'd have to look up the law, and it totally depends on what country you're in and everything like that. But in the UK, anything that you could probably put together and make a firing, you know, like an actual working firearm would be illegal. No, that's not a problem, Bill. The problem is if you try and post it out of America, because then it's classed as exporting it. I see. The problem is Ninja Master. I don't actually have a gun tree in my garden. I'm sure gun trees would be banned in the UK. I do find it culturally, you know, quite strange that there are countries where you could literally go into a gun shop and buy a gun with only very basic checks done. I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, I'm just saying it's sort of a bit strange. Yeah, were you saying you can or can you? But, no, over in the UK you can't legally buy gun part kits. Yeah, I've said about that before, me too, in very old videos. Either sealed filters or missing filters is the standard thing in lots of games. Or movies. Well, not in movies, because the actors would suffocate if the filter was sealed, but in games. Because they look at a photo of a mask and then like, oh, that must be what it looks like. No, as I already said, Jonathan, it's only if you post it. If he leaves with it in his luggage, it's totally legal. Because it's for personal use or whatever. Unless the particular airport has a problem with it. The law is specifically exporting and it covers pretty much every item of American surplus, not M40 specifically. Well, it was done for political brownie points. That's why they did it. They said, they literally said, oh, because we've had a mass shooting ban this, we've had another mass shooting ban that. And then, ignore anything to the contrary where people are still shooting each other because, we banned them, so can't be happening. I think statistically now, from what I've seen anyway, you'd have to, I don't know how well verified these are, but we get more, fatal shootings per year now than we did at the height of when guns were legal. Well, were more accessible legally, if you want to say that. Especially if you look at pistol deaths and things like that. You can, but they've changed the laws several times on blank guns. So I think they have to shoot an exhaust in a certain way. Like they have to exhaust to the side or bottom or something, they can't exhaust forward. And I think they probably have to be bright colours now. And again, it's also one of those situations, I think, where lots of places won't sell them to you unless you have some other sort of licence, because they want to cover themselves. The same reason that technically, without any sort of shotgun licence or anything, I could go and buy a musket, but then I can't buy a musket because nowhere will sell it to me without a gun licence, because they want to cover themselves. There's lots of laws like that in the UK, where because they make it very hard for certain things to do, I'm trying to think of the words for it, but because they, make the law very difficult in certain ways, but not technically illegal, things that are technically legal you just can't do. Yeah. There's lots of things like that where things are illegal if you have certain things but not if you have others. And yeah, lots of the laws being very vague, as I said before, is very bad. Really, having vague laws, you should have laws that say this is a crime or this isn't, not it's up to interpretation and things like that. Yeah, that's strange, because in the UK, pump action's never been too badly classified. Oh yeah, I own bits of guns which are all from the deactivated ones, and that's perfectly legal, but for whatever reason, if you have too many parts, I guess, of the same gun without deactivation done on them, then it's not legal. Because it's like magazines you can just buy, you can have fully functional, the actual magazines themselves, that's not a problem. But you obviously can't have certain bits of the interior of the guns. But as I was saying earlier, like with the obsolete calibers, lots of the places that have them in won't sell them to you unless you have like a Section 1 or Section 2 license, because they want to cover themselves. Oh, the last two questions are very similar to each other. I'm not exactly sure, because I think, like we've said with a few people, if we just had America's gun law system in the UK, that would probably end really badly really quickly. I think ideally what it was before the 80s, where there would be a very basic background check done on people, but for the most part, as long as you didn't have a criminal record or whatever, you could buy whatever. And then, if you get done for something, have the firearms taken away, but not have the current system where you have to jump through lots of hoops to get a gun, and then, even more things you can get the gun taken away from you that aren't even legally clear. Because at the moment, like we always say, you sort of rent a gun, you don't own one, which is why whenever I get asked by people, oh, do you want to go and get a shotgun certificate? Like, yeah, I could apply for one, but what's the point? Because I don't like the idea of spending loads of money and then at any point being able to have it taken away. Britain's similar to that, it's free shotguns. I think the channel's called English Shooting, but they never explained what he'd actually done. Just the fact that obviously he did something that angered somebody somewhere, and then that was it, his guns were gone. You can buy inert rounds, so you can literally get a magazine and put inert rounds in it, that's not a problem. I've got quite a few inert rounds in different calibers. It's just where they shoot the round and then they reassemble it, and then they I think put like sand in it or whatever to kind of make the weight go up. Obviously there's not a primer in it that's going to go off, and there's not gunpowder in it, but you've still essentially got from the outside what looks like a proper round, because it is, but just nothing in it, so the casing and the head. I have to wait now for some more questions or whatever to come in, because again it's a blank period where nobody's saying anything. What's slow mode set to? 10 seconds, so I don't need to adjust that. Well, I do, but that's not what you heard just then, that's a clock you were listening to. Because on the hour it does a different bird noise. Well, there are, Dominic, but they're still stupid, because it's basically, you could do something like that for your job or whatever, and then you could still have everything taken away. So let's say you do sport shooting, you've done it for years, you go to a gun club and everything like that. Then you apply for it, you jump through all the hoops and actually manage to get it. Then at some point you do something that offends somebody, or a law's changed, you lose everything. So it's not that you can't get firearms in the UK, it's just not a very wise decision to actually get them, unless you really, really need them for something. Yeah, that's really stupid stuff like that. where you could buy it legally, but because you're trying to buy it in bulk or whatever for another purpose, they don't want to sell it. Nope. I used to do judo when I was much younger, but I've not done that in years. But that's like the same thing with pharmacies and medicine, to be honest. It's like, there's like lots of things where, let's say you wanted to buy a load of paracetamol, they might only sell you one box at once because, oh, you could take a load and overdose and die. So legally we can only sell you one box at once. So it means that if one particular chemist or pharmacy has like a good offer on paracetamol, you can't actually, you know, take advantage of that because you can only buy one box at once, but you could then go down the road to another pharmacy and buy another box. There's loads of things like that that are stupid, especially when sometimes they have different brands of stuff in. And they'll do like one brand that's a smaller size, less than half of the price of the more expensive brand, but they won't let you buy two of the smaller things. Yeah, exactly, that's what I was just saying, doesn't stop you doing that, but it's still a pain in the ass if you actually want to stock up on something. No, chat's dried up again. Oh, in my opinion, yeah, but there's probably masks better than them, Gas Mask Reviewer, just not any that, you know, I've actually got, so I can verify that. Because I know Avon's done a load of masks since the FM12, but they're very expensive, and I don't want to spend £200 buying a surplus mask to then, you know, see how good it is. Not really any, to be honest, Win. If there was any, it would be like historical martial arts, you know, like sword fighting type ones, but not even that, because I've never seen, other than some reenactors doing it, people doing it properly. A lot of the HEMA stuff you see on YouTube is people fighting with foam swords, which, as I've said before, if you're fighting with something that weighs a couple of 100 grams and not a couple of kilos, it's not a realistic depiction of what it would be. What about Kydex, Callum? That's your only message that's come through is Kydex. That's strange. Oh, unless it's because YouTube's changed me to top chat. Hang on. No, that's still the only message. Randomly, there's just one from you, Callum, that says Kydex, and that's it. You've had no previous messages in the chat. Yeah, the modern Avon filters, I think, do have like that colour detection paper on it that should let you know when it's expired. Riot shields are expensive unless you get one for a good deal. Who are you replying to, Nick? Because you said that, but you're not actually replying to anybody. What you just typed in did, Callum, yeah. No, this is just really confusing me now, where people are basically replying to people's messages I can't see, although I'm the admin on the chat. What, do you mean one of those, like, thin aluminium shields? Right, okay, Mike, can you see if there's somebody called Spider in the chat? Because somebody says he's replying to Spider, but there's nobody called Spider in the participants as far as I can see, and there's nobody actually in the chat I can see called Spider, and I've set to live chat, not top chat, because you have mod. I thought I'd ask you. Yeah, but there's nobody called that in the chat. Yeah, so you and me can't see this person, but somebody says they're replying to them in the chat. No, there's nobody there. Okay, yep, that message definitely didn't come through, Callum, because the only bit I could see was where you said Kydex, and then that was it. I'm assuming they just go undercover, because as far as I'm aware it burned through actual NBC suits, white phosphorus. So I'm assuming you'd have to take cover or get in a vehicle or something. Sterling definitely, because it's actually quite reliable. Well, the UK is pretty dangerous in some areas, so in some ways it could be beneficial, but at the same time, I think if you know martial arts and then you get in a fight with somebody, the police use that against you. Yeah, that came through though, Callum, so I really don't know, but the problem with this thing is there's lots of stuff that it doesn't even show us as being how to review, it just completely deletes your message. Some modern filters use fiberglass, others use paper. It's bad if inhaled, but not as bad as asbestos. But remember, the filter's there to protect you from far nastier stuff. Yeah, protect you from mustard gas. Charcoal NBC suits, when they're in date, protect you from everything. It's just when they expire, they don't protect you really from anything. Yeah, I kind of like doing these, as long as you get good sort of questions coming in, because sometimes people like to ask the same things over and over and over, and that's just where it annoys me a bit, but... it's not just fire white phosphorus, it's poisonous fire. It generally kills you even if you survive the burns, through sort of just liver damage or something like that, or blood poisoning. It's really nasty stuff. I'm still going to get around to doing a video on it at some point, but knowing YouTube, they won't like the fact I've done a video on it. No idea, send a message to Avon if you're really interested, but as said, I wouldn't worry about it too much. And if you worry about stuff like that, you really shouldn't be into gas mask collecting or using, to be honest, because I'm not really trying to have a go at you, but it does really annoy me when people constantly like, oh, but why, the filter's not 100% safe to breathe through casually, they shouldn't have used that stuff in there. No, it's there to save your life in case of a chemical attack, which is a lot more serious. So, and that's not really directed at you, but it's just, I've been getting a lot of comments like that, and it's just winding me up a bit, to be honest. Yeah, I don't think Labour would ever get into power again, would they? Shackleton. Yeah, Polish MP5 is very good. I've done videos on it. I like the MP5. It's one of those masks that's surprisingly good because loads of people had said they're crap. When I've got it, I can only find some very minor flaws of it, and for the most part, it's a really nice design. Although it's technically a French mask that the Polish build under license as the MP5. The MP6 looks good, but I've not seen any of those at sensible prices on the surplus market. Yeah, for some reason the MP4B, which came up before, you're right, as I've said before, has the better drinking tube. Although they're very similar. Yeah, like I said, it's not really directed totally at you, it's just because I've had loads of comments where people have started trying to argue with me recently. Where they're sort of like, oh, but why isn't it 100% safe to wear a filter? I was like, well, because there's lots of stuff that's potentially harmful in a filter if it leaks out. But, you know, it's much better than what would happen if you actually inhaled all the stuff that is designed to protect you against, and then people want to argue, well, why don't they use this in a filter? Why don't they use that in a filter? Oh yeah, exactly, Richard, but there's some people that like to start arguments over that. Because I think, like Mike says, there's people who just want to start arguments over anything, but it's just a bit frustrating when you have to try, because I actually try and reply to comments and give people good answers. When you get people that want to argue with that, they ask you a question and they get really funny with you for answering it. Apply force to which bit? Me too. But with most masks, if you put loads of force on one area, they break because they're made out of rubber and plastic and metal and glass, or rubber or whatever, whatever they've got in them. It depends. It really depends on, is it heavy duty use or light duty use? Because the heavy duty uncomfortable suits, while they're uncomfortable, they are much better in terms of reliability. Yeah, for £30 I get it. I've seen some on eBay with the jigsaw carry case and the mask. £30 I definitely do. I think I paid like that for mine, but mine wasn't with a carry bag, it was just from a surplus store. The lens is the stuff that's like silicone, polyurethane, whatever it's called. So again, yeah, if you got a knife and stabbed it through it, it would break, but so would a glass one. It's designed to be flexible. You literally go on eBay and get the type in gas mask hose or respirator hose, and it's the ones from China that are brand new. It's quite obvious. Books and research. Well, it's like a thick piece of see-through kind of rubber resin. So it's not plastic. It's not like it's got cling film or something as the visor. But it's a lot like the MCU2P and all those. Although because they use that other thing, not silicone, it doesn't discolour as easily. No, it totally depends on the suits, Lee. Lightweight modern suits are charcoal inside a breathable material. Old suits are rubber. It depends if they were heavy or light duty suits. As far as I can tell, yes, but who knows. I can get both GOST and NATO filters to go onto the bottom of them, and it seems they go into GOST and NATO masks fine. But some people say they do, some people say they don't. Just like some people say they can put NATO filters on a GP5 and it works, and I don't really believe those people, to be honest, when they say that. So, there you go. But yeah, if you want to find one, I'm not going to give a direct link because I think eBay links often end up being too long anyway to post in the chat. But I'll tell you exactly what to type in to get one. I'll just get one up and then I'll tell you what I searched. Type in 40mm hose mask. The second result that comes up is, it says brand new from China, and it's one of those. It says gas mask hose. It's like where it's just all the keywords they've put in. But yeah, for me it's the second result comes up if you just type in 40mm hose mask. I can see what you did there, Mike. Yeah, well, I mean, if they do, that would be good, because it basically means you can get what's pretty much an M40, but for, you know, hopefully not as much money and as much hassle. Yeah, it's strange in the chat how sometimes you get loads and loads of questions at once, and then all of a sudden you get a bit where nobody leaves a comment. Although I've noticed in the last few minutes the views have all dropped off suddenly by about 8 views. Yeah, that's the one, black and white hose, because I think you can order it in whichever colour you want, but it's like a rubber hose covered in fabric. Right, cool, see ya. Oh, I saw that one before I banned him. Oh, it's one of them, don't give him any attention. If you see people like that, don't talk to them. Yeah, right, I'm enjoying having a couple of days off of work again before I'm back at work, although I obviously do the YouTube stuff on these days. Yeah, as I said, I'll pardon the pun, but don't respond to them, because that's what they want. I'm honestly considering, and I'm not saying I'm going to do this to Yumi too, but if I ban somebody who's obviously a troll, and people keep responding to them, I'm probably going to start banning those people, because they're just feeding the trolls. I think the aquarium's been seen in a much older video, but there's literally no point seeing it, because there's one fish in it that sits in a piece of cover all day. Well, you'll only be listening to this for another minute or so, and then I'm finishing the stream, because it's been nearly an hour. Yeah, as I said, I'm not specifically saying that to you, I'm just saying that, you know, don't feed the trolls when they're on, because that's what they want. They always stop really quickly. If as soon as I see them, I ban them, and then that's it. But as soon as people start acknowledging them, it encourages them. And by me saying this, it's encouraging them, because I'm finishing the stream in a minute, I don't really care. But I'm, you know, just saying that I'm going to need to start getting strict on that. Don't feed the trolls. Yeah, exactly. If they come on, the first message they say gets them blocked, and if they come back several times, they're always blocked. They never come back, because they realise they're not getting any attention. But when people start, even if it's not me they wind up, but they start winding up other people, that's what they want. Alright, cheers. But yeah, it's been an hour now, so I'll probably start wrapping this stream up. You going to be on Twitch tonight, Mike? I don't think you were on last night, were you? Alright, cheers. Yeah, sorry if I sounded a bit shitty with anybody. That wasn't intentional either. It was just, you know, when some people keep asking very similar questions, it does get a bit irritating. Just wait. Ah, okay, yeah. I'll make sure I watch out for a notification for that then later on then, Mike. Right, yeah, so see you everybody. Next time I do a stream will be Thursday. I'll probably stream some more Call of Pripyat when I do that. Because I'm trying to roughly alternate, not always, like, every other stream do the other thing, but try and do a stream playing a game one day of the week and then the other day doing the sort of audio streams, but sometimes it just depends on what I have the energy for. I don't have a Twitch now, other than just watching other people's content, but Weapon Collector has a Twitch, which I think is literally just Weapon Collector. I'll post a link to his Twitch now, in case that gets him some more viewers. Let me just do that. There you go, that's his Twitch thing. Like, so I'm generally in the comments if people want to chat when I'm watching his stuff when he's on, because I also mod it for him. You know, because when he's playing games, he can't ban people if they're trolling. But, like I said, I don't have a Twitch myself because I just use YouTube Live when I stream games. But anyway, we'll finish that off there, because every time I try and do the finalising up bits, it always takes longer and longer. So yeah, I'll see everybody on Thursday when I next do a stream, but as usual, video on Wednesday, Friday and Sunday at 5 PM. And, yep. See you then. So my next video will be Wednesday at 5 PM as usual, then it'll be the stream the next day at whatever time I get a chance to do the stream. It'll be in the evening, UK time, I know that for certain. And then, you know, it'll be then Friday and Sunday's video. So right, see ya everybody.